welcome back to the Book of You channel. My name is Shanae Suggs, and I am the teacher of the Book of You course. And in today's video, we are going into episode 3 of our Astro Talk series. So every Wednesday, we have a new video that comes out that really teaches you a little bit more about astrology, about your birth chart, and about yourself as a human being and your whole everything about yourself. So today's episode 3, and last episode we actually talked about your solar eclipse house position, your prenatal solar eclipse. So if you're new to this channel, hello. My name is Shanae Suggs. Again, I'm the teacher of the course Book of You, and in Book of You we actually study your whole self. We learn everything from your subconscious patterns to your purpose to who you are as a whole being, your dark and your light sides, and how to use self-reflection to actually confirm and validate that information so that you're not just this gullible person walking around accepting everything that's in the course as truth. And we also teach you just how to be able to fully walk in and embody that and just know that that's who you are, and being okay with that and what it looks like to grow within those patterns you may have. There's a lot that we get into, but if you're an astrology lover like me, you'll definitely benefit from this course, whether you are a beginner or an advanced astrologer. So with that being said, again, the link for that is down below. We're diving into your prenatal lunar eclipse today. So your prenatal eclipses deal with your purpose and how you fulfill that purpose and the lessons you need to learn in order to fulfill the purpose. And so we're going into your lunar eclipse today, and your lunar eclipse is all about the lessons that you need to learn on the way to fulfilling your purpose. So I'm going to try to zip it because literally the whole presentation that follows lays everything out for you. So again, welcome to today's video, and let's dive in. All right, and welcome back to the prenatal eclipse section of the Astro Talk series on this channel. This is going to be part 1 of the lunar eclipses. So the last 2 episodes we did parts 1 and 2 of the solar eclipses. Now we're going to get into your lunar eclipse and what that means. So first, before we begin, what we learned last episode, just to quickly recap. So in episode 2 of this Astro Talk series, we talked about your prenatal solar eclipse house. Episode 1, we talked about the sign of your solar eclipse. So within last episode, your solar eclipse house, you learned how to find out the date of that, the sign, and then how to then find that sign within your chart and what that meant for you as far as what house it fell into. And then we also covered the details of that house part of your prenatal eclipse, your prenatal solar eclipse. So we covered the fact that your prenatal solar eclipse house included the lessons that you were to teach, the lessons you were to learn, your journey towards maturity, and how those lessons were reflected in your physical body. So in this episode, we're talking specifically about your lunar eclipse. So we're going to be covering really your lunar eclipse signs. In the next episode, we're going to go deep into your lunar eclipse house and what that means for you. But first, before we dive into the signs of your lunar eclipse, I just wanted to refresh you, or if this is your first time watching this channel, hello. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure you click subscribe, because there's a lot more coming to this Astro Talk series on this channel. But either way, if you missed it in that first episode, the lunar eclipse teaches you what you're here to learn. So your solar eclipse represents the lesson that you're here to teach. It's really like your purpose here. When you pair your solar and lunar eclipses together, that really helps to define what your purpose or mission here is. And then everything within your birth chart kind of shows you all of the different channels and paths you may take to fulfill that purpose or mission. So that's definitely a really cool thing. And I'll talk more about that at a later date. But again, your solar eclipse represents the part that you're here to actually teach people, the example that you're meant to live by, to show others how to live. But with your lunar eclipse, it's the lesson you may have to learn. Not even that you may have to learn, it's the lesson you do have to learn before you can fulfill your end of the promise when it comes to the solar eclipse. So how do you find your lunar eclipse sign? This is going to be very similar to how you find the solar eclipse signs. So first, you're just going to Google the lunar eclipse that occurred right before your birth. So if your birthday was May 10th, 1993, then you would Google lunar eclipse that occurred before May 10th, 1993, and then see the date that comes up right before yours. I'm talking, it'll be within like 3 months or so maybe 6 months. It kind of depends on when your birthday falls. Like sometimes it just depends. There's years where the eclipses are odd, but it'll be fairly close to your birth date. And then once you find that specific date of that eclipse, you're going to then Google that date and say, okay, what is the moon sign? So when we did the solar eclipse, we were looking at the sun sign because it was a solar eclipse. So, but now we're looking at your moon sign. So you're going to actually look up what sign the moon was in at that point in time, so at that specific date. If you know how to pull a chart, then you can easily just pull a chart and look it up. But if you don't yet know how to pull a chart, we will be having a video on that coming soon your way. But if you don't know yet how to pull a chart, then you can simply just Google what the moon sign was on that specific date of your eclipse, and you will have your answer. And then we're going to actually dive in this video into all 12 signs and what they mean. There will be timestamps down below for you, so that you can go ahead and go straight to the sign that is your moon sign for your lunar eclipse, I should say. So before we dive into those signs, I do just want to briefly cover what the details you'll be learning today. So you're going to learn the levels of maturity for one. So this is going to be kind of the journey that you may experience as you learn your lessons that the lunar eclipse outlines for you. Then you're going to have your body's experience. So this is how your body may physically integrate the lessons. This is going to be your body's way of telling you whether you're on or off track with the lesson you're meant to be learning. And then you're also going to be obviously learning what the lesson is that you're meant to learn with your lunar eclipse. So let's go ahead and dive into these signs. All right, first we have Aries, of course. So if your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Aries, that means that you're here to learn how to be independent. You're here to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. You're here to learn how to be assertive, how to stand up for your beliefs, how to stand up for yourself, how to be your own person specifically. And how this will look for you as you go from basically being not independent to being independent is you're going to be quite over dependent. You're going to be very over dependent on other people, may create a lot of codependent relationships. You know, it's going to be a lot of frustration, a lot of anger that you're going to have because there's going to be this craving that's bubbling, and this is what I call the ego phase, which is phase 1 of this journey. And it's going to be this kind of piece of you that really craves independence. You don't want to have to rely on people. But at this point in time, you do, because it's almost like you're afraid to do things on your own. You're afraid that you're going to get rejected. You're afraid that you're going to fail. You're afraid that you're not going to be able to basically get up and walk on your own 2 feet. And so this is a major lesson that you're learning before you can really teach the solar eclipse lesson that you're here to teach. So phase 2 of this is going to be really you starting to crave that independence. You may create a sense of false independence where it looks like you're independent, but you're not really. So beware of that. And then as you move into phase 3, which is when you become like that matured adult, spiritually, I should say, you become very centered in your lesson, and you're able to then teach others how to trust in God's plan, how to stand on your own 2 feet, how to be able to move and basically be your full self. So how this looks in your body, should you resist the lessons on your path, your body is going to warn you through the following physical symptoms. So things like headaches, lower back pain, bumping your head, and even having issues with your left eye, whether that's twitching or muscle weakness. So let's get into Taurus. So Taurus is sign number 2. So with your lunar eclipse being in the sign of Taurus, you're here to learn how to embrace the material world, specifically that it's okay for you to have material wealth and material abundance. And this does not just mean money. This is meaning having an appreciation for earth and all of the bounty that the earth provides, whether it's money, food, all kinds of things that the earth provides, all of the material, physical things. It also includes your body, because that is also a material thing, and your senses, and being able to appreciate your senses. This lesson will include you learning that money does not equal your self-worth, and it also does not equal the self-worth or the worth of other people. You're learning that money does not, you're really just learning what money is, how to use money correctly, and what the proper mindset is around money. You're going to be learning a lot of lessons just regarding money, but also material wealth, material abundance in the material world in general. How this will look for you as far as how you mature in life is you're going to start out with that ego phase, phase one, that little kid who's just that bully or getting bullied and is just very immature. You're essentially going to be broke. I know, not the funnest thing to hear, but it's mostly because you have a way of not keeping money. It could be for various reasons because your philosophy and your mindset around money is not correct yet. You have a very I would say not a very good mindset around money. It could be things like you believe that it's bad to have money, that wealthy people are bad, wealthy people are evil, money is the root of all evil, you know, a lot of those kinds of beliefs. There's a lot of different beliefs that you could have that will lead to you spending money like crazy or really literally capping yourself from being able to make a certain amount. But anyways, that's what phase one looks like for you. But as you move into your awakening phase, that's when you begin to crave abundance. You begin to actually want more in life. You begin to want money. You begin to want more things. You want to experience the physical material world in ways that you yet cannot. And then so that then as you awaken, you begin to correct your mindset on money. And by the time you've moved into phase three, your mindset around money is the spiritually correct mindset. And you're able to not only appreciate money, but the material realm as well. And you're able to then share that with others. So, how this looks in your body, should you choose to resist your lessons, is your body will warn you through your senses, especially your throat, your nose, and your ears. You're going to find yourself having issues with these areas when you're stuck in a non-prosperous consciousness. So when you're stuck in that broke money mindset, your body is going to try to warn you through your five senses, letting you know you're off your path. So let's move into Gemini. With Gemini, the lesson that you are here to learn is how to expand your own perspective and how to communicate that. So a major piece of this lesson for you is going to include you just learning how to communicate in general. People are going to misunderstand the hell out of you. They're not going to have any idea what you're saying. You're going to often trigger them, cause a lot of arguments, a lot of debates, things like that. And you're going to think that it's just because maybe you're too smart, people can't understand you. But in reality, that's feedback from the world because the world is your mirror, right? So that's feedback telling you you're not communicating in a way where people can actually receive what it is that you're saying. And so it's very, very important for you to learn how to communicate. Because when your perspective is expanded and you're able to move out of that narrow-mindedness and black and white kind of thought, and you want to share what it is you've learned, if people can't receive it, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, well, what the heck? So how this is going to look for you when it comes to your journey in this lesson is you're going to start out being somebody, first of all, who's very rigid in their mindset. But you're also going to start out being somebody who's just not very good at communicating. You'll tend to tell people what they want to hear, just so you can kind of avoid issues. And as you move into phase two, you start to learn how to communicate. And this can be a bumpy road for you. It can go from you being a people pleaser, sugarcoater, to you being rebellious and wanting to just trigger the hell out of people, to you finally coming to somewhere in the middle where you kind of learn what to say and when, depending on who you're talking to. You kind of learn to feel the situation out, and you learn to choose your words wisely so that that person actually walks away understanding you rather than walking away angry or walking away with a false sense of hope or pride or whatever the case is. So when you have created that balance, that's when you've entered into that phase three of centeredness, where you've really learned your lesson as far as communication and having an open, big picture perspective. And you're able to then share that with others, and then people actually understand what the heck you're saying, and they accept and receive it and learn from it. How this will be reflected in your body should you resist your lessons on your path is through your body's communication system. This is your arms, your shoulders, your hands, lungs, nervous system, list goes on. But you will find yourself having issues with these specific areas of communication with your body when your communication is being blocked. So this means you're not communicating well with others, or others aren't being able to communicate with you. It goes both ways. When communication is being blocked, your body is going to be blocked as well. So let's talk about Cancer. With the sign of Cancer, if your lunar eclipse is in this sign, you're going to be here to learn how to interact with others while stabilizing your emotions and theirs at the same time. You're basically like a human emotion filter in a sense, where people feel comfortable being in your presence, people feel comfortable around you because they feel a sense of peace. Um, and this is part of this lesson for you is actually you feeling uncomfortable around others because you don't want to deal with their baggage and their stuff. A lot of times you're going to feel like people are just venting and putting all of their junk on you, and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, especially within your family. So, how this will look as you move through your journey is you're going to start out being that person who just feels like nobody cares. You're going to wallow in self pity. You're just going to feel like everybody's always looking to you to have the answers and to listen to all their problems, but nobody cares about yours. And you're going to feel almost kind of burdened, like you're trying to carry everybody's drama and yours, and you don't know what to do with it. That's essentially how you start out. And I know it sounds tough, but as you begin to awaken to your lesson in life, you'll begin to learn how to deal with your emotions and then be able to be basically a space of peace and be centered when other people are around you so that they find that peace within you and they're able to share with you, and then you don't take it personal. Like you don't take it on as your own stuff. You're able to just kind of let it go, and help them through that process. And it's you help them through that process without having to literally guide them. You don't have to walk them step by step on how to process emotions. You just kind of do it naturally because you've learned to do it for yourself. So by the time you hit phase 3, you really are able to be that person again that's very centered. You're like that wise sage that everybody kind of looks to and they want to be in your presence because, again, it's like there's something about you. You know, it's like whenever I'm around you, I just feel everything is just dissipating. And that's literally like one of your roles here on this earth to be able to do. But you first have to learn how to do it yourself. So, should you resist this lesson on your path, you're going to experience a lot of issues with your stomach, your uterus, if you're a woman, and your pancreas. You're also going to have issues with water retention, and a lot of this is going to deal with you holding on to emotions and not processing them correctly. So if you're not processing emotions, your body is going to show you. All right, so moving into Leo. With the sign of Leo, if your moon is your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Leo, you're going to be here to learn how to love yourself. And you're also going to be here to learn how to receive love and being able to say it's okay to receive love. Part of this lesson includes you learning how to accept yourself. It includes you being proud of yourself and learning to develop your ego, because ego is not bad. Ego is like what goes after your desires and causes you to actually create things in life. So yeah, a lot of this is just being able to be proud of yourself, dealing with rejection, being okay with being rejected, and being okay with receiving love as well, and appreciation. How this is going to look for you as far as your journey through life is you're going to start out being quite a cold and detached person, not willing to accept or give love. It's very much a humanitarian kind of perspective where you're more focused on the whole versus on yourself. Um, and then as you move into phase 2 of awakening to your lesson in life, that's when you really learn to begin to awaken your heart space, is the best way that I can put it. And you really do this through creation. You know, it's almost like a kid discovering art. You know, it's like as you discover your love of creating, whether that's art, music, dance, it doesn't matter. It could even be creating physical products. As you learn to create from your heart space, it's going to open you up to being able to receive love. Because at some point, you will begin to receive appreciation and praise for the work that you create, the things that you make. And that's going to lead you into a space where you are fully embracing yourself, accepting yourself, loving yourself, and then you're able to then pour that into others as well. And again, this is stemming from you just learning how to play, how to create, how to have fun. How this will be experienced in your body, should you resist your path, your body is going to let you know, like, you're kind of off your path here, through your heart and your spine primarily. You're going to have issues with these areas when you refuse to accept yourself and when you refuse to accept love. Now, if your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Virgo, the lesson that you're here to learn is to actually ground yourself and remain balanced. You are here to literally be able to learn how to bring a spiritual ideal into the physical world. And so this lesson will include you learning how to not be so gullible, not to believe every single thing, and learning how to grow your discernment muscle. You're going to become very intuitive in a way where you're able to sense when something's complete BS and when something's actually useful. That's pretty much what your discernment muscle is going to be discerning or deciding. Is this useful? Can this be brought down to the physical plane and actually be used by somebody and help them? Or is this kind of like some fa la la dystopian belief that, is just out of this world and is not ever going to be practical at this time, kind of thing. This is what you're really here to learn. And then as you learn what's useful and what's not, you're experimenting at the same time and really bringing these ideals into your own life and seeing if they work. And if they do, boom, share them with other people. So how this is going to look for you as far as your journey is you're going to move from your phase one is going to be you not knowing how to bring these spiritual ideas down to earth. Like it's going to be almost just like you're just lost in the clouds. You're daydreaming. You're lost in this fantasy world, this imagination. Well, what if the world was like this? Well, it's not enough to just say, what if the world was like this? Wouldn't it be nice? It's how can this happen? Is this something that's plausible? Is it possible? So when you first start out, you're kind of that airhead that's just stuck in imagination zone. But eventually you move into this phase of awakening, phase two, where you really start to use your logic. You start to pair that with your spiritual sensitivity, and that begins to really work your discernment muscle, where you begin to say, okay, how can this actually be brought down to earth terms? How can we bring it from 5D to 3D, essentially, right? How can you climb the mountain and then bring the message back down to the people? So that's phase two, is you learning how to do that. And so by the time you reach phase three and you've actually learned your lesson and you've mastered it, you're able to pair logic with spirit and you're able to create the life you want. It's like you become the ultimate manifester. You're really able to bring spiritual ideals, ideas, principles, philosophies, and you're able to bring them down in a way that's practical and useful for everybody, that makes life easier. So if you choose to resist the lesson on your path, your body is going to warn you through your digestive system, especially your large intestine and your spleen. You're going to find yourself having a lot of issues with these areas if you're not processing or discerning life correctly. So this is all about how you digest, how you process life. So let's talk about Libra. If your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Libra, you're here to learn how to be balanced and fair in all areas of your life. And a major part of this lesson will include you learning how to balance the practice of giving and taking in your life and in relationships. So, it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna deal a lot with relationships with other people. So you're gonna find yourself starting out having not so fun relationships. It's either gonna be codependency, it's gonna be narcissism, it's gonna be just jumping from relationship to relationship, not being able to commit. There's going to be issues where maybe you're doing all the giving and the person's doing all the taking. So maybe they're like an energy vampire, or maybe it's vice versa and you're doing all the taking and they're doing all the giving. It's going to be a lot of balance for you in learning how to balance your give and take in relationships and balance yourself. And as you learn how to do that, you're going to learn how to then apply those steps of balance to all areas of your life. And so that's really kind of phase two for you, is where phase one is like you're just imbalanced everywhere. Okay, you're just all over the place. But as you enter into phase two, you kind of start to crave that balance, and so you start to learn how to relate to people. And as you enter into phase three, which is that kind of wise sage centered space, you're really able to create balance both in your life and in other people's lives, because you've essentially become a master of it. So should you resist your path, your body is going to warn you through your kidneys, your adrenal glands, your ovaries if you're a woman, and your prostate if you're a man. You're going to especially have issues with these areas when you're not being honest in your communication, when you're not having integrity, and when you're experiencing an imbalance somewhere in your world, whether that's your relationships or any other areas of your life. So if your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Scorpio, the lesson that you're here to learn is how to create a moral or value system
that is based on spiritual truths. And so a major part of this is you learning boundaries, which is interesting, right? So what this is going to look like for you, you're really going to have to learn boundaries, because you're going to start out in life being very manipulative, not caring about other people. You're just going to want to use them for what they have to meet whatever end that you're looking to meet, and that's it. And at some point, you're going to push people to the edge, and they're going to push back and say that's enough, or the consequence will be that they will leave your life. And so that's really you in phase two, starting to realize, okay, I can't just treat people however I want to. I really have to care about others and honor both sides of the deal, and make sure that I'm not just taking care of myself, but that I'm taking care of others whenever I have any kind of interaction with others. So again, a major part of this is you learning boundaries, and people are going to teach you boundaries, because when you start out, you have no sense of boundaries at all. So by the time you hit phase three, you have learned not only what boundaries are, but you've learned how to create your own boundaries. You no longer will rely on people to create boundaries for you. And in doing so, you move into this space where you're able to honor your relationships with people without having to manipulate them to get what you want. So, how this is going to look in your body should you resist your path is your body is going to warn you through your reproductive organs, and really kind of like the organs that you use to excrete waste. So, your colon, your small intestines, your bowels, your rectum, all of that. You're going to find yourself having issues with these areas when you get stuck into a control and manipulation kind of phase where you just don't recognize the responsibility that you have to other people. Um, and again, this is you getting stuck in the need to use other people for their resources. And instead, your body's going to be like, hey, that's boop, boop. No, that's not how we do things here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's it in a nutshell for you. So let's talk Sagittarius. If your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Sagittarius, the lesson that you're here to learn is how to basically release all of your prejudices that you may have towards other people, and specifically towards other cultures, philosophies, and religions, and releasing that so that you can begin to actually see the common thread that underlies everything. And this may include you traveling to other countries. There's a huge chance that you may, at some point in your life, travel outside of your country, or travel just to a space where you can experience another culture. So, how this is going to look for you is you're going to start out quite narrow minded. You may start out within a specific religion where you're kind of boxed in and everything's very black and white. And as you move into phase two of your journey with this lesson, you begin to actually get curious about what other cultures do and how other cultures function. And the key here is you realizing that, okay, well, my religion or my belief system says to do this in order to have this kind of life, but I see other people having that kind of life without following the steps in my religion. And that's kind of be like a cue there that causes you to begin to question things. So that whole phase two is kind of like you awakening to different truths, and you kind of questioning things and slowly releasing prejudices and ideals that you may have that no longer fit the lifestyle you may want to live. So that by the time you hit phase three of your journey, um, you've discovered this universal truth that underlies every culture and religion and philosophy, and you're sharing it with other people. So, how this is going to look in your body should you choose to refuse to learn your lesson. Your body is going to warn you through your hips, your skin, your thighs, and your liver. You find yourself having issues with these areas when you're being very rigid or narrow minded in your beliefs. So, if you're rigid and narrow minded in your beliefs, your body's going to be rigid. It's not going to be easy for you to move your body. And with Sagittarius energy, it's all about movement and having the freedom to move and go. So that's really your body trying to push you to learn your lesson. So let's talk Capricorn. If your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Capricorn, the lesson that you're here to learn is how to have integrity, how to be responsible, how to have a good reputation and fit in with society. A major part of this is learning to go beyond your home environment. It's learning how to be useful to others. And again, it's learning how to be in public. A big part of your life is that you're going to be visible in some sort of way. This doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be famous, but you are going to be visible. People are going to see you and notice you. So you're going to encounter a lot of judgment, a lot of critique in your life. And so when you start out, in phase one, you're really not gonna give a crap about your reputation. You're not gonna care at all. And as you move into phase two, it's going to be because you receive a lot of critique, you receive a lot of judgment. It starts to kind of get you to look at life differently and realizing if I don't change how I do things, people are going to look at me this way, and I don't want to be seen that way. And it's not about doing things to make other people happy in a sense. It's just you want to be seen as useful and valuable to your society, to your community, to your world. And you realize that a lot of that deals with you having a good reputation for being honest, for being hardworking, for having good values, and all of these different things. So by the time you hit phase three, you're kind of this person that's really a pillar in your community in some form. Again, this doesn't necessarily mean you're famous. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that the people around you look to you as somebody who's a solid person. Like, that's a solid guy. That's a solid girl. Like, I know that I could go to them for anything. I know that they can be trusted. They're trustworthy. They have integrity. They're true to themselves, blah, blah, blah. So how this will look in your body should you refuse to learn your lesson is through your bones, your knees, your teeth, your stomach, and your skin. You're especially going to have issues with these areas when you refuse to accept your responsibility, not only for yourself, but for others and the authority that you've been given in your life. If you just decide to literally like waste the potential you've been given, uh, your body's going to let you know. And you may also find yourself in situations when you end up in prison and things like that because you're literally of no value. You understand what I'm saying? So, anyways, let's talk Aquarius energy. So, if your lunar eclipse is in the sign of Aquarius, um, you're here to learn how to detach from ideas, beliefs, expectations, people, things, etc., so that you can flow in life. Like, the key for you is to not get attached to anything. And not in the form that you don't care about people or things. It's just that if it's no longer in your life, you kind of learn to understand and trust that if it's meant to be there, it'll come back. And if it's not, then that's like it was there for a season and that's kind of the end of it. So that's a major thing you're learning is to live and let live, to let go and let God, to really just trust the way that life is playing out. This lesson will include you learning to think of the whole when making decisions and not just yourself. So a big part of this is becoming that humanitarian, wanting to help the collective, if that makes sense. So how this is going to look for you is you're going to start out basically being forced by life to lose things, people, relationships, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of this, again, is there to teach you how to detach from those things so that you can focus on your more humanitarian mission. Um, so, again, phase one is going to be, again, that whole forceful detachment. But as you enter into phase two, you begin to learn how to navigate life in a way where you don't form those attachments. And again, attachments aren't bad. It doesn't mean you don't love people and that you're not committed in relationships and anything like that. It just means that if things don't work out, you're not hell bent on making something work that's not meant to. You know what I'm saying? It's like you starting a business or something and the business is not what you're meant to be doing, and you try a bunch of times to get it to work and you try all kinds of things and it's just not meant for you. Sometimes you need to let it go. You know what I'm saying? So that you can step into what is right for you. That's really a major lesson of what you're learning. So by the time you hit phase three and you're this wise, centered, wise sage kind of being, you're able to flow through life and its ups and downs. You know when things are here for a season and for a reason, and you're able to just flow with it. So, should you refuse to learn the lesson here, your body is going to warn you through your nervous tension, diabetes, ankle swelling, sugar cravings, and hypoglycemia. So you'll find yourself having issues with these areas when you're trying so hard to hold on to what you feel is meant to be yours. Okay, so a lot of this is learning discernment as well and being able to just let go. So, lastly, we have the sign of Pisces. And the lesson that you're here to learn with your lunar eclipse being in the sign of Pisces is how to develop your own sensitivities. And a major part of this is learning to not be so critical and analytical. You're learning to really be sensitive, not only to yourself, but to others and to situations and to life. Just like Aquarius, a big part of this is learning to trust God, to let go and let God, and be able to trust the signs and wonders. The Pisces energy is very, very psychic and very, very intuitive. So you're basically learning how to tune into those gifts. So how this is going to look for you is when you start out, very, very critical. Very critical, very analytical, very like robotic, like you got to see the proof, you got to see the numbers, you got to see how it works. And as you move from that space to your phase 2, you learn how to essentially communicate in a way where you're more empathetic. Think of it like how people say they're empaths. You really learn to read people's energy and to learn how to take whatever critiques that you have. So you're very logical, right? You're very analytical. You're able to see everything that's wrong. You're able to see everything that's broken. But it doesn't mean that you know how to communicate it. So again, when you're starting out, you're overly critical. And people kind of are repulsed by you in a sense because you're constantly telling them what's wrong with them. And it's kind of like you attract more, what is it, you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, whatever the case is. I forget what the saying actually is, something like that. But essentially you're learning how to sweeten your words so that people can receive the correction that you give them, because you are here to be able to correct others and point out flaws that you see in systems and in the world. But again, if it just sounds like you're complaining all the time, nobody's going to want to hear that. So by the time you hit phase 3, you would have learned how to communicate sweetly in a way where people can actually receive your loving correction. Um, how this looks in your body, should you resist your path, is your body is going to warn you physically through your feet, your lymphatic system, and your digestive system. You're going to find yourself having issues with these areas when you're over analyzing everything, life, people, situations, when you're becoming overly critical and not just trusting life and trusting the way life is flowing, trusting the overall plan that God has for everyone, including you, but also when you're not lovingly communicating. It's about how you're digesting life, but also how you're communicating that to others. So you reached the end here of our presentation. So now what? Now what is, first of all, if you liked this video, give it a like. And if you enjoy this kind of content, definitely hit the subscribe button, because there's a lot more where that came from. And also leave me a comment down below. Let me know what sign your lunar eclipse is in, and if you feel like it resonated with you, or if it was very like kind of spot on for you, and if it got you thinking. In the next episode, there's a typo there. We're not learning about your solar eclipse. We're learning about your lunar eclipse house. So a little bit of a typo there, my bad. Trying to get this together quick, guys. We're in a snowstorm here, or snowstorm is over, but we're in the aftershocks of it. So power is kind of shoddy. Anyways, enrollment is open for the Book of You course. You can enroll. The link for it is down below. Basically, what you've been getting the last few weeks in this series here, in the Astro Talk series, is you've been getting a taste of what the Book of You course actually offers. So if you're into astrology, if you're into the true use of astrology, meaning you're using it as a tool for self-reflection, not a kind of book of fate to dictate exactly what's going to happen in your life, but again, as a tool for you to be able to observe yourself and observe your life, and really be able to grow in a way where you learn to love and accept all of yourself, meaning the dark and the light sides of yourself, and really, again, pairing that with the self-observation and then the embodying process, or ritual, I should say, practice. I like the word practice, so we're going to call it the embody practice. So within this course, you learn how to observe yourself and how to compare that to what you learn about yourself in the course, and then you pair that with your embodiment practice, where you actually learn to embody all it is that you learn, whether it's positive, negative, it doesn't matter. And then from there, you're able to learn, okay, well, if I no longer want to experience this in my life, I know now what I may need to do, what I may need to change in order to change that situation. Because within this course, you are going to learn everything. I mean, it's literally like, okay, these are the patterns, you know, right? These are the patterns in your life. This is what it looks like from the level of the ego. This is what it looks like when you're in that awakening stage. This is what it looks like when you've actually mastered the lesson. And you can choose where you want to be. You can see literally where you are in that lesson, you know, in that pattern, because every pattern you have is for you to experience growth in that space. You know, I'm all about self acceptance and self love, but it's also how are you going to grow from that? You know, it's not about fixing yourself, it's about experiencing more. And if you choose to do so, you can choose to stay where you are and be totally okay with that. And that is 1000% cool. But for those who also choose that they want to grow and experience more and experience different levels of that pattern in their lives, then they can also choose to do so. And so that's what this course really enables you to do. Because again, you're learning all of the patterns that you may have. You're able to then use the self observation to then reflect on your life to see what feels true for you. And then you then embody that. So, anyways, that is the Book of You course in a nutshell. The link for enrollment is down below. I hope to see you there. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. I'll see you next time.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you have any questions for me, whether it's how to find your house position, if you want to know more about your prenatal eclipses, if you want to know more about the course, drop them all down below. I am here to answer any and all questions for you, definitely astrology related. And with that, I will see you in next week's video. Bye.